Well, this is a typical example of being theistic, of being very pious to the Vatican, very respectful, not wanting to do anything fancy-schmancy, but obviously emulation is only the first step. Then you get into the Royal Arch, and from the Royal Arch you are usually picked up if you have esoteric inclinations in joining societies of Rosicrucians, like the Society Rosicrucian in Anglia, and at that point you start practicing obviously magic and start coming in contact with the entities in groups also like the Golden Dawn. But these are not practices open to the majority of Freemasons. The majority of Freemasons stays really in the darkness regarding the real practices of the upper levels. In the Scottish Rite, from the 26th degree you start encountering the symbol of the Jesuits. Then on the 30th degree you encounter the myth of Jacob de Molay, which is the Knights Templars who have to sworn their revenge. This actually degree has been taken off by all the valleys there in the States. It's not being practiced anymore for some reason. They was opposing too much the papacy, so they took it off.
I see.
That it was a bit considered too much to oppose the papacy in that way for some Catholics, so they decided to scrub it off and not have any more the 30th practice, only given the degree by name, you given the instructions, but you don't practice it. You understand? You don't go to the Supreme Council or wherever they're meeting, if it is an Areopagus or if it's a council or an Agape, wherever. We have to understand that in the Scottish Rite, from the 30th to the 33, you start receiving those that knowledge that we could call Luciferian, and at that point, when you are made to believe that Hiram Abiff, who is the master mason of all master masons, who is the one that we discover and we learn about the first 3 degrees of Freemasonry, which are the most important, is instead actually Jesus, and that the death and rebirth of Hiram Abiff is the death and rebirth of Jesus. That's okay. That's as much as you're gonna get into the Scottish Rite, because is after the 33 degree, after you are in the Scottish Rite, put in contact with all the symbolism and with all the proof regarding also the Jesuit involvement in the high degrees of the Scottish Rite. At that point, if you decide to become involved in the Illuminati structure, you start from the 30th to the 33 getting involved in higher structures, and that structures, as I said, the first that comes to my mind and the most important really is always the Memphis and Mizraim, because from 33 degrees it brings you to 90, 95 and 99, and culminating in 100. So this is the totality of the degrees that are given, and the knowledge, which is an immense amount of knowledge. We are talking here through the Zenda Vesta, to the Vedas, to any holy book possible and imaginable, all the secrets encoded in these books, so they can make their evocations, they can make their cryptotic whatever evocation of any kind with these elements that comes from the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah is very important also for the whole, but the Kabbalah itself is the first step, because then behind the Kabbalah you discover the genies of the Kabbalah, the genes of the Kabbalah, which are obviously the Egyptian gods, and so you discover that the Kabbalah itself has its roots in Egypt, obviously, and that the whole of this black magic ring has its roots in ancient Egypt, and after passes through ancient Rome, and it becomes property of the Vatican, because as we know, Cleopatra married Julius Caesar, but the people in Rome didn't like very much the possibility of losing their control over the Egyptians, And from there on, the Romans took also control of the Egyptian magic. In fact, they brought the obelisks from Egypt and they took control over all kinds of magic, red magic in that case.
I see. Since you've gone public and put up your website, Illuminati Confessions, has there been any threats or any danger to either yourself or your family members?
Absolutely, there has been at the beginning when I tried to open my first website on squarespace.com. Unfortunately, we got closed down, and the day after I had a visit from the police that was threatening me with taking custody of my children, taking from me custody of my children if I didn't give up my revelations on my website. It was very hard to me to decide to go on, but I decided to expose them immediately after they did this. I immediately contacted Greg Zismansky. We decided to immediately go public, me and my wife, about what they had done. My wife, thanks to this, had to go through hell because she had to go to the social workers after. It didn't finish there. They really made things difficult for us. And
Sure.
They literally in our face had the courage to say, if you don't stop the work with your website, we might take custody of the children. I made this public, and since then actually things have got better because they understood that I don't take any threats and that I will stop at nothing to reveal what I was involved in, because I think that people need to know for their good what is really happening in the world, that there is some big manipulators out there, that we find them everywhere, but in certain frames like the Freemasons, the Rotary Club, the Knights of Malta, all these are engines of power. This is where the power resides, and there is a pyramid of power that goes directly to Rome and Jerusalem, and it's a pyramid of evil power and control over the minds of millions, and they are all trying to save their asses before 2012 because they think that 2012 will unleash a catastrophe whereby America itself will fall apart and no state of the US will stay together.